The rain battered the windows of the small diner, but inside Mia's heart was on fire. She clutched Lena's hand under the table, her thumb tracing circles on her girlfriend's palm, as the weight of her mother's tearful confession from last night burned in her chest. How could her uncle and aunt family have drained her mother's savings for years, leaving her on the edge of ruin? Mia, 25, had always been the fighter in their unconventional family. Adopted at age 10 by Sarah, a single mother who poured every ounce of her love into raising her, Mia grew up in a modest house in Willow Creek, a sleepy town in upstate New York. Sarah was a nurse, kind to a fault, but her generosity had been exploited by her own brother, Tom, and his wife, Diane. For years they'd manipulated Sarah into loans for their failing business ventures, vacations, and even a second mortgage, never repaying a cent. Last night Sarah broke down, revealing she was drowning in debt, her retirement savings gone, her spirit crushed. Mia's blood boiled. She wasn't just angry, she was ready for war. Lena, 24, sat across from her, her green eyes soft but resolute. She'd been Mia's anchor since they met 2 years ago at a local book club, where their shared love for poetry sparked a connection that bloomed into something deeper. Lena, with her quiet strength and unwavering loyalty, had grown up in a stricter household, her parents barely tolerating her coming out as lesbian. She understood Mia's rage, her need to protect Sarah, because Lena knew what it was to fight for acceptance. "We'll figure this out together," Lena whispered, squeezing Mia's hand. "But you can't let anger consume you." Mia's jaw tightened. "They've been leeching off her for years, Lena. Years. She's worked her whole life, and now she's got nothing because of them." Her voice cracked, betraying the vulnerability beneath her tough exterior. She leaned back in the booth, her leather jacket creaking, and stared out at the rain-soaked street. Willow Creek was small, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's business, but no one had noticed Sarah's silent suffering. Mia blamed herself. She'd been too caught up in her own life, her job at the local community center, her love for Lena. She should have seen the signs. Lena reached across the table, her fingers brushing Mia's cheek. "You're not alone in this. Sarah's not alone. We'll find a way." Her voice was a bomb, but Mia's mind was already racing. She'd heard whispers about Tom and Diane's shady dealings, rumors of unpaid debts, bounced checks, and a trail of broken promises. If she could dig deeper, maybe she could expose them, force them to repay what they'd stolen. But it wouldn't be easy. Tom was a charmer, a former high school football star who still carried clout in town, and Diane played the role of the perfect wife, always volunteering at church. They were untouchable, or so they thought. That night, Mia sat at her desk in their small apartment, Lena curled up on the couch with a book. The glow of Mia's laptop illuminated her face as she scoured public records, searching for anything to pin on Tom and Diane. Lena glanced up, her brow furrowing. "Mia, it's late. You need to rest." "I can't," Mia muttered, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "If I stop, I'll lose it. I need to do this for Mom." Lena set her book down and crossed the room, kneeling beside Mia's chair. "You're not doing this alone, okay? I'm with you. But you need to pace yourself. This is a marathon, not a sprint." Mia exhaled, her shoulders slumping. Lena was right, she always was. But the fire in Mia's chest wouldn't let her stop. She pulled up an old email from Sarah, one she'd overlooked, mentioning a business deal Tom had roped her into. It was vague, but it was a start. Mia's eyes narrowed. "They're not getting away with this," she said, more to herself than Lena. The next morning Mia drove to Sarah's house, a small Cape Cod-style home on the edge of town. Sarah was in the kitchen, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea, her eyes red from crying. "I didn't want to burden you," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I could handle it." Mia knelt beside her, taking her hands. "Mom, you're not a burden. You're my family. I'm going to fix this." Sarah's lip trembled. "Tom's my brother. I trusted him. I thought he'd pay me back." Mia's heart ached, but her resolve hardened. She spent the day combing through Sarah's financial records, piecing together a timeline of Tom and Diane's manipulation. They'd started small, borrowing a few thousand for emergencies, but it escalated. A $20,000 investment in Tom's failed car dealership. A $15,000 loan for a family vacation they never invited Sarah on. The numbers made Mia's stomach churn. By the time she left Sarah's house, she had a folder of evidence. Bank statements, emails, even a handwritten note from Diane promising repayment soon. Back at the apartment, Lena was waiting with takeout from their favorite Chinese place. "Find anything?" she asked, setting a plate of lo mein in front of Mia. "Enough to know they're scum," Mia said, flipping open the folder. "But not enough to nail them." "Not yet." Lena sat beside her, studying the papers. "What if we talk to someone who knows their business dealings? Like that accountant they used to brag about?" Mia's eyes lit up. "Jerry. Yeah, he might know something." Jerry was a retired accountant who'd done taxes for half the town, including Tom and Diane. If anyone had dirt on their finances, it was him. The next day, Mia and Lena tracked Jerry down at the local library, where he volunteered. He was a wiry man in his 60s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Tom and Diane," he said, leaning back in his chair. "Oh, I've got stories. But you didn't hear them from me." Jerry revealed that Tom's car dealership had been a front for shady loans, and Diane had been funneling money into offshore accounts. It wasn't hard proof, but it was a lead. Mia's pulse raced. This was bigger than she'd thought. As they left the library, Lena slipped her hand into Mia's. "We're getting closer," she said, her voice steady. "But we need to be careful. They're not going to go down without a fight." Mia nodded, her mind already spinning with the next steps. She wasn't just fighting for Sarah anymore, she was fighting for justice. For every person Tom and Diane had hurt. And with Lena by her side, she felt unstoppable. Mia's boots crunched on the gravel outside Jerry's old office, a cramped building on the edge of Willow Creek. The air was crisp with autumn, but her blood ran hot with purpose. She and Lena had spent the past week chasing Jerry's lead, digging into Tom and Diane's financial trail, and every new piece of evidence felt like a spark igniting a wildfire. Jerry had pointed them to a paper trail, old contracts and loan agreements tied to Tom's defunct car dealership. Mia had spent sleepless nights cross-referencing names and dates, her desk littered with coffee cups and post-it notes. Lena, ever the calm to Mia's storm, kept her grounded, brewing tea and reminding her to eat. "You're a machine," Lena teased one night, kissing Mia's forehead. "But even machines need fuel." Now, standing outside Jerry's office, Mia clutched a folder of documents they'd pieced together. "If we can prove they funneled Mom's money into those offshore accounts," she said, her voice low, "we can take them to court." Lena adjusted her scarf, her blonde hair catching the sunlight. "It's not just about the money, Mia. It's about making sure they can't hurt anyone else." Mia nodded, her jaw set. She knocked on Jerry's door, and he ushered them inside, his desk piled high with files. "You two are persistent," he said, a glint of respect in his eyes. He pulled out a faded ledger from the dealership's final year. "Look here. Tom signed over half the business to a shell company. Guess who owns it?" "Diane," Mia said, her voice flat. She'd suspected as much, but seeing it in black and white made her stomach twist. Jerry nodded. "They used Sarah's money to prop up the dealership, then siphoned profits into that shell company. Classic scam." Mia's hand shook as she took photos of the ledger. This was its smoking gun. But it wasn't enough. They needed hard evidence linking the shell company to the offshore accounts. Jerry warned them it wouldn't be easy. Those accounts are buried deep. You'd need a forensic accountant or a hacker to crack them. That night, Mia paced their apartment, her mind racing. Lena sat cross-legged on the floor, scrolling through posts about financial fraud. "There's a guy in Syracuse," Lena said, looking up. "People say he's a genius with this stuff. Exposes scams for a living." Mia stopped pacing. "A hacker? More like an investigator. Name's Alex. He's got a rep for taking down shady businesses." Mia hesitated. Hiring someone like Alex could be risky, expensive too. But Sarah's future was on the line. "Let's find him," she said. 2 days later, they met Alex at a coffee shop in Syracuse. He was younger than Mia expected, maybe 30, with a laptop covered in stickers and a sly grin. "Heard you're taking on some big fish," he said, sipping an espresso. Mia slid the folder across the table. "My uncle and aunt. They've been stealing from my mom for years. We think they're hiding money offshore." Alex skimmed the documents, his grin fading. "This is messy, but I can dig into those accounts. It'll take time and it won't be cheap. How much? Lena asked, her voice steady. $5,000 up front. Another 5 if I find what you need. Mia's heart sank. She didn't have that kind of money, and neither did Lena. But Lena squeezed her hand under the table. We'll find a way, she whispered. Back in Willow Creek, Mia faced a new hurdle, Sarah. Her mother was reluctant to confront Tom and Diane, still clinging to the hope that her brother would make things right. Mia sat her down in the living room, the same room where they built forts as a kid. Mom, they're not going to change, Mia said, her voice gentle but firm. They've been lying to you. To everyone. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I wanted to believe in family. Mia hugged her tightly. We're your family. Me and Lena. We're fighting for you. Inspired by Sarah's vulnerability, Mia and Lena brainstormed ways to raise the money for Alex. Lena suggested a fundraiser, leveraging their community ties. Mia was skeptical Willow Creek wasn't exactly progressive, and their relationship had raised eyebrows, but Lena's optimism was infectious. They organized a bake sale at the community center, with Lena's homemade pies stealing the show. To Mia's surprise, people showed up. Neighbors, coworkers, even a few old high school classmates. They raised $3,000 in a weekend. You were right, Mia admitted, kissing Lena's cheek as they counted the cash. Lena grinned. Told you. People want to help. With the partial payment, Alex got to work. A week later, he called with news. Found the accounts, he said. Cayman Islands. 3 of them linked to Diane's name. But there's a catch. Mia's grip tightened on the phone. What? They're moving the money. Fast. If you want to catch them, you need to act now. Mia hung up, her heart pounding. She looked at Lena, who was chopping vegetables for dinner. We're running out of time, Mia said. They're going to disappear with Mom's money. Lena set down her knife, her face calm but determined. Then we move faster. The clock was ticking, and Mia felt it in her bones. Alex's warning echoed in her mind as she and Lena drove to Tom and Diane's sprawling house on the outskirts of Willow Creek. The plan was risky. Confront them with the evidence and demand they return Sarah's money before it vanished into the Cayman accounts. Lena glanced at Mia from the passenger seat, her hand resting on Mia's knee. You sure about this? They could turn this around on us. Mia's grip tightened on the steering wheel. They've had their chance. No more games. Tom and Diane's house loomed ahead, a gaudy monument to their greed. New siding, a 3-car garage, all paid for with Sarah's savings. Mia's stomach churned as she parked. She clutched the folder of evidence, her heart pounding with a mix of rage and fear. Lena's presence steadied her. They'd face worse together. Whispers at town events, Lena's parents' cold rejection. This was just another fight. Tom answered the door, his smile as slick as ever. Mia! What a surprise. Come in, come in. Diane appeared behind him, her eyes narrowing slightly. And Lena, to what do we owe the pleasure? Mia didn't waste time. She dropped the folder on their polished dining table. We know what you've been doing to Mom. The loans, the shell company, the offshore accounts. It's over. Tom's smile faltered, but Diane laughed, sharp and cold. What is this, some kind of prank? Sarah's fine. She wanted to help us. Help? Mia's voice rose. You took everything she had. She's drowning in debt because of you. Lena stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. We have proof. Bank records, ledgers, emails. You've been stealing from her for years. Tom's face reddened. You don't know what you're talking about. This is family business. Family? Mia snapped. You call bleeding her dry family? You're parasites. Diane's composure cracked. How dare you? We gave Sarah a chance to invest in something big. She knew the risks. Mia slammed her hand on the table. She trusted you. And you betrayed her. The argument escalated, voices overlapping, until Tom grabbed the folder and tore it in half. Get out of my house, he growled. Lena pulled Mia back, her touch grounding. This isn't over, Lena said, her eyes locked on Diane. We're taking this to court. As they drove away, Mia's hands shook. They're not going to stop, she said, her voice breaking. They'll hide everything. Lena squeezed her hand. Then we make sure they can't. Back at the apartment, Alex sent an encrypted file with more details. transaction records tying Diane's shell company to the offshore accounts. It was enough to build a case, but they needed a lawyer. Mia reached out to a pro bono legal clinic in Syracuse, and they connected her with Rachel, a sharp attorney who specialized in financial fraud. Rachel was optimistic but cautious. "This is solid," she said, reviewing the evidence. "But Tom and Diane have influence. We need to be airtight." Mia and Lena spent days gathering more documents, interviewing former employees of Tom's dealership, even tracking down a whistleblower who'd worked for Diane. Each step felt like a battle, but Lena's unwavering support kept Mia going. One night, exhausted, Mia collapsed onto the couch, her head in Lena's lap. "What if we lose?" she whispered. Lena ran her fingers through Mia's hair. "We won't. Because we're fighting for what's right." The community rallied behind them. The bake sale had sparked something. People started sharing their own stories of Tom and Diane's manipulations. A local cafe owner revealed Diane had pressured her into a bad loan. A mechanic said Tom had stiffed him on payments. Mia realized this wasn't just about Sarah. It was about holding two predators accountable. But the fight took a toll. Sarah grew quieter, guilt eating at her for dragging Mia into this mess. One evening, Mia found her mother staring out the window, her face etched with worry. "I should have stopped them sooner," Sarah said. Mia took her hand. "You didn't know, Mom. But we're stopping them now." Sarah smiled faintly. "You're so much stronger than I ever was." "No," Mia said. "I got my strength from you." As the court date approached, Mia and Lena prepared with Rachel, building a case that felt unbreakable. But Tom and Diane weren't done. A week before the hearing, Mia got a call from an unknown number. A man's voice, low and threatening. "Drop this or you'll regret it." Mia's blood ran cold. She told Lena, who insisted they report it to Rachel. "They're scared," Lena said. "That means we're close." Mia nodded, but fear gnawed at her. This wasn't just about money, Anna Marie, it was a war. And she wasn't sure they'd all come out unscathed. The threat hung over Mia like a storm cloud, but she refused to back down. She and Lena doubled their efforts, meeting with Rachel daily to refine their case. The evidence was damning. Bank transfers, forged signatures, even a recorded voicemail from Diane pressuring Sarah for more money. But Mia couldn't shake the fear that Tom and Diane would slip through the cracks. They always had. Willow Creek buzzed with gossip as the court date loomed. Some supported Mia and Sarah. Others whispered that she was tearing her family apart. At the community center, Mia overheard a coworker mutter, "Why can't she just let it go?" The words stung, but Lena's hand in hers was a reminder of why she kept fighting. The night before the hearing, Mia and Lena sat on their apartment balcony, sharing a blanket under the stars. "I'm scared," Mia admitted, her voice barely audible. "What if we lose everything?" Lena turned to her, her green eyes fierce. "We won't lose. Because we have each other. And we have Sarah. That's more than they'll ever have." Mia kissed her, the warmth of Lena's lips grounding her. "I don't deserve you," she whispered. Lena smiled. "Yes, you do. And so does Sarah." The courthouse in Syracuse was cold and imposing, its marble floors echoing with every step. Mia sat beside Sarah, who looked small and fragile in her best dress. Lena sat on Mia's other side, her presence a steady anchor. Rachel stood at the podium, laying out the case with precision. Years of financial abuse, documented exploitation, and a pattern of deceit. Tom and Diane sat across the room, their lawyers spinning a tale of misunderstandings and family generosity. Mia's heart pounded as Sarah took the stand. Her mother's voice trembled as she recounted every loan, every broken promise. "I trusted them," Sarah said, tears streaming down her face. "They were my family." When Mia testified, she didn't hold back. She described Sarah's sacrifices, the late nights at the hospital, the dreams she'd given up to provide for Mia. "They took advantage of her kindness," Mia said, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. "They stole her future." The courtroom was silent as Rachel presented the evidence ledgers, bank records, Alex's findings. Tom's face grew pale, Diane's hands fidgeted. Their lawyer tried to poke holes, but the truth was undeniable. After hours of testimony, the judge called a recess. Mia, Lena, and Sarah waited in a small room, the tension suffocating. Sarah gripped Mia's hand. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. No matter what happens. Mia's eyes burned with tears. I just want you to be okay, Mom. The verdict came swiftly. The judge ruled in Sarah's favor, ordering Tom and Diane to repay $150,000, with interest and freezing their offshore accounts pending further investigation. Mia's breath caught in her chest. They'd won. But the victory felt hollow. As they left the courthouse, Tom approached, his face twisted with anger. You think this is over? He hissed. You've ruined us. Mia stepped forward, her voice cold. You ruined yourselves. Lena pulled her back, her touch gentle but firm. Let's go home, she said. That night, Sarah hosted a small dinner at her house. Mia and Lena cooked, filling the kitchen with the scent of roasted vegetables and fresh bread. Sarah laughed for the first time in weeks, her face glowing with relief. I don't know how to thank you both, she said, raising a glass of wine. You don't have to, Mia said, her hand finding Lena's under the table. We're family. But the fight wasn't over. Alex called the next day with news. The offshore accounts were tied to a larger network of fraud. Tom and Diane were under investigation by the IRS. Mia felt a mix of triumph and exhaustion. She'd protected Sarah, but the cost had been high sleepless nights, strained relationships, the weight of confronting family. Lena sensed her turmoil. You did the right thing, she said, wrapping her arms around Mia. You gave Sarah her life back. Mia leaned into her, the warmth of Lena's embrace easing the ache in her chest. I couldn't have done it without you. Spring arrived in Willow Creek, painting the town in shades of green and gold. Mia stood in Sarah's backyard, watching her mother plant tulips, her hands steady in the soil. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind: court battles, community support, and the slow healing of old wounds. Sarah was rebuilding, her debt manageable now, her spirit lighter. Mia felt a quiet pride, but the scars of the fight lingered. Lena joined her, slipping an arm around Mia's waist. She looks happy, Lena said, nodding toward Sarah. Mia smiled. She is. We did that. The victory in court had been just the beginning. The IRS investigation into Tom and Diane uncovered a web of fraud that stretched beyond Willow Creek. They'd lost their house, their reputation, and faced potential jail time. Mia didn't gloat she wasn't that person, but she felt a fierce satisfaction knowing they couldn't hurt anyone else. The town had changed too. The fundraiser had sparked a wave of support for Sarah, and Mia and Lena's openness about their relationship softened some hearts. Not everyone accepted them, but the ones who mattered did. The community center where Mia worked hosted a pride event for the first time, and Lena's pies were the talk of the night. One evening, Mia and Lena walked to the park where they first admitted their feelings. The oak tree still stood, its branches swaying in the breeze. They sat on the same bench from the image prompt, their hands intertwined. I used to think I had to fight alone, Mia said, her voice soft. But you changed that. Lena leaned her head on Mia's shoulder. We're stronger together. Always will be. Mia thought of Sarah, of the years stolen by greed, and the years they'd reclaimed through love and resilience. She thought of the community that rallied behind them, of the courage it took to stand up, not just for her mother, but for what was right. I want to do more, Mia said suddenly. Help other people like Mom. People who've been taken advantage of. Lena's eyes sparkled. Then let's do it. Together. They started Smala support group at the community center for victims of financial abuse. Mia shared her story, Lena organized resources, and Sarah became their biggest cheerleader. It wasn't easy, but it was meaningful. Each person they helped felt like a step toward healing, not just for Sarah but for Mia too. One night, as they lay in bed, Lena traced patterns on Mia's arm. You're my hero, you know that? Mia laughed softly. I'm no hero. I'm just me. Lena kissed her, slow and deliberate. That's enough. The stars outside their window glittered, a reminder of the light they'd found in the darkness. Mia had fought for her mother, for justice, for love. And in Lena, she'd found a partner who made every battle worth it. They weren't just surviving, they were building a future, one rooted in courage, love, and the unbreakable bond of chosen family. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.